Superman and Lois, Season 1, Episode 12, Through the Valley of Death. This episode starts out with John Henry Irons in Metropolis looking for this world's version of his younger sister. As he's about to make contact, he gets the call from Lois Lane telling him that Superman has been turned. Superman is at Tallrose Desert Fortress, and he has finished going through the painful red beam, and he is now struggling to fight off the evil that is trying to consume him, and his eyes are glowing red as the evil messes with his head. Tallrose tells him the more he resists, the more painful it will be, and he tells him about his experience with having pain removed from him when he was a teenager. Tallrose tells Superman to submit and the pain will be over. Superman tells him that he can help him, but Tallrose gets angry and refuses and tells him that they are not brothers because Superman rejected him and rejected his own people. Tallrose tells him that he will eventually turn, and he says not even Superman can resist the will of General Zod. Back in Smallville, Lois hangs up the phone and hears the boys talking in the family room about what they should do. She walks in and tells them their dad will be okay. She tells them to go upstairs and try to get some sleep. General Sam Lane comes to the house and tells Lois that they are trying to track Tallrose and Superman. She tells him about Tallrose Fortress in the desert, and he has the DoD satellites redirect their search to the desert. Lois breaks down crying, and Sam hugs his daughter. The next morning at the Cushing's house, Kyle gets ready for work at the fire station when one of his fellow firefighters, Tamara, drops by and tells him not to come in for a few days until things settle down in Smallville. At the farm, Jonathan finds Jordan sitting by the barn. Jonathan tells him to try and use his super hearing ability to see if they can locate their dad. They go off to another part of the farm where it is quieter so Jordan can concentrate better. As they go, John Henry Irons pulls up at the farm. Lois and General Lane tells John what is happening, and they tell him they need to come up with a rescue plan. John Henry Irons says no, there's only one thing that needs to happen, and John tells Lois and the General that he is going to have to kill Superman by any means necessary. Lois gets upset and says to both of them, "Let's first find him." As she walks off, the General tells John Henry Irons that he is rounding up every weapon they have in the 7734 arsenal for when the time comes. John tells Sam that he may have a more effective means of killing Superman than just kryptonite. Outside, as Jordan is using his super hearing, he gets nothing, just all kinds of sounds. Nothing from Superman. Jordan gets frustrated and says that it's not going to work, and Jonathan says to his brother that it will work and they just have to try again. Jordan tells his brother he feels guilty because his powers didn't stop Edge when he tried to use his heat vision on Edge and it did nothing, and that he took off with their dad. Jonathan tells him that won't be the case this time and that he believes in him. John Henry Irons and the General are in his RV at his computer console, and he is showing the General a missile that is a solar flare missile. He says it was made by Lex Luthor. He tells the General that he used it in his fight against the evil black-suited Superman before he ended up arriving on this Earth. He tells the General he is pretty sure it worked, he just didn't get to see the outcome because that is when he got to this Earth. He tells the General to get someone to produce one of these for him, and he will take care of the rest. The General asks how he is going to do that without his suit and without his ship. John Henry Irons tells him not to worry about that and that he's got all that covered. Lana, Kyle, and Sarah arrive in downtown Smallville and see a line of people at the military compound getting tested to make sure the people who were turned are okay and back to normal. Lana sees Emily and her family, and Emily and her family take everything out on Kyle and Lana because of all that has happened. Lois is in town and she sees that happen. Lois goes to Lana, Kyle, and Sarah and says that they are not to blame for this. She tells them Morgan Edge is. Kyle says he's not sure people will see it that way, and Lois tells them that they will eventually. She says she will make sure of it. Lois asks if she can speak with Lana and Kyle in private inside the Smallville Gazette office. Lana and Kyle explain to Lois what it was like and how they felt when they were turned. Kyle has the most to say about what it was like, and he tells Lois everything. Lois thanks them for everything that they told her. At the desert fortress, Superman is turning, but at the same time, he is trying hard and desperately trying to fight the effects of turning. He is remembering things such as Lois and the boys. As his memories are flashing in his mind, he is able to get enough energy and flies off out of the desert fortress. He doesn't make it very far and crash lands in the desert not too far from the fortress. At the farm, Jonathan is still using his super hearing to see if he can hear his dad. In the desert, Superman screams his son's name, Jordan, and Jordan with his super hearing picks him up. Jordan hears him and Superman hears Jordan. Jordan asks him where he is, and he says the Badlands. As he is about to tell Jordan more, Tall Ro shows up and grabs Superman by the neck. Tall Ro asks him, "You think your boy can help you now?" Jordan, still listening, Tall Ro lets Jordan know that if they send anyone for him, that it won't be the man you know. Lois is walking towards the military complex in downtown Smallville when she sees a familiar face. John Diggle giving a soldier some tech and equipment that he says must be delivered to General Sam Lane right away. She goes up to him and says, "John Diggle?" He turns around and smiles and says, "Lois Lane." They both hug each other. He says, "So this is where you and Clark moved the family." She says, "Yeah, they thought a slower change of pace would be good for the family," and he replies, "Looks like that didn't go as planned." She asks him what he is doing there, and she asks if Argus is helping with the search. He tells her that her dad called his wife and the director of Argus, Lila, saying he needed some tech delivered, so she sent him. Lois and John Diggle go into the command tent, and Lois confronts her dad on using that tech, and she says, "I thought you were on my side." The general tells her that no decisions have been made. John Diggle comes into the conversation and says, "Except for the part where you lied about what you're using this Argus tech for." The general tells them both that it is a fluid situation and he didn't want to involve him or Lila in the decision making. John Diggle says, "Because you knew we would say no." He says, "You can't try to kill Superman," and he says, "You sure can't use Argus tech to do it." John Henry Irons says the tech is his. Argus is just providing the ammo. John Diggle looks at him and says, "Who are you?" The general tells Diggle that he is John Henry Irons, who is helping them with the fallback plan in case they run out of time. Lois tells Irons and her dad that it is possible to fight back against eradication. Irons says yes, possible, but not probable. Irons asks Lois if she's really going to gamble on the fate of your world. Diggle comes back into the conversation and says, "Wait a minute, you're from another Earth?" The general tells Diggle that he is from another Earth, and Diggle gets upset and says, "You and I are going to have a serious conversation about this, General." Jonathan and Jordan run into the tent and tell their mom that they must speak with her and that it is important. Lana and Kyle and Sarah arrive home from town and find their house has been vandalized with spray paint saying "Get out of Smallville," and their front window has been busted by a rock or something. Kyle gets mad and Lana calms him down. Back in town, Jonathan and Jordan tell Lois and the general all they know. Lois tells her dad that Tall Ro is bluffing. He tells her he has to make a tactical decision as if it were any other battle or war scenario. He says once they locate Superman, he is sending in John Henry Irons. Lois comes back into the military tent and asks John Henry Irons if she can speak with him in private. She tells him that Clark Kent is Superman and that he is her husband and they have 2 sons and that he won't turn because he has them to fight for. Irons tells Lois what she is telling him doesn't change anything. In the military tent, John Diggle and General Lane have a discussion, and Diggle says that what he is about to do is not the right call, and that had he and Lila known what was going on, that Argus and Lila never would have agreed to this, and that he wouldn't have come. John Diggle tells John Henry Irons that the world will be praying that he makes the right call. Lana, Sarah, and Kyle work on getting the graffiti off the front of their house, and they also get the window fixed. Back at the desert, Tall Ro throws Superman to the ground back inside his fortress and says that no one, not even Superman, can fight forever. Then we see that the evil Superman has taken over Superman and that Zeta and Tall Ro see it happen. Zeta Ro looks at Superman and tells him and Tall Ro that now they can finish what they came here to do. Zeta looks at Superman and says, "General Zod?" He nods to them, telling them that Kal-El, Clark Kent, and Superman is gone and General Zod is now in control. One of General Lane's soldiers locates on satellite the desert fortress. General Lane and John Henry Irons both see it. Irons asks the general if they are a go, and the general says, "You are a go." As John Henry Irons is gearing up, Jonathan finds him and tells him what he's about to do and who he is about to kill is not right, and that his dad is a really good dad. Jonathan tells him there's always another way, and then walks out. John Henry Irons suits up and flies off and lands in the desert about 200 yards from the fortress. Lois and General Lane are watching and listening from the military compound center in Smallville. Superman flies out to where Irons is and lands. Superman looks at Irons in his suit and says nothing and attacks Irons. They lost track of Irons and Superman. They are up in space, and Superman is literally giving Irons a beating. Superman knocks Irons back to the earth. Irons hits the ground hard, but is still alive and still conscious. General Lane says, "John, talk to me." Irons responds and says, "Superman has been turned." Irons stands back up. Superman, in a very monstrous voice, says that you cannot stop what is coming. None of you can stop this. Superman attacks once more and knocks John Henry Irons into a pile of huge rocks. Superman is beating Irons but is hardly making a dent in his armor, but Irons is still feeling it. General Lane says he is fully authorized to retaliate. Irons uses and fires something from his hand which knocks Superman back, and he hits the ground about 5 or 6 yards away from Irons. They both charge at each other and engage each other in the air a few feet off the ground. Superman throws him to the ground and goes down to him and tries to squeeze his helmet. John's AI in his armor is at 57%. Lois grabs a headset with a microphone and puts it on. Lois tells John he can't beat him and that he has to make him remember who he is. Irons looks at Superman and sees his eyes flash red and sees Superman look around disoriented for a few seconds. John summons his hammer and knocks and hits Superman in the side of the head with it, knocking Superman off of him. Superman is still on the ground and Irons flies over to him and hits him with his hammer again. John Henry Irons arms the red solar flare missile on his suit and aims it at Superman. Lois tells Irons that he's still in there and that they can get through to him. Superman says to John that he has to kill him because he can't stop. Irons disarms the missile and takes off his helmet and tells him that Lois sent him to help. He tells Superman that Lois and the boys still believe in him. He tells him that the pain that he is experiencing right now will be nothing compared to the pain of losing his family. He says, "Do not let that bastard take you away from them." He tells Superman to fight it. He says, "Remember who you are and fight back." Superman uses the memories of Lois and the boys to fight back. Superman screams in agony and pain and passes out. After about a minute or two, Superman wakes up. John Henry Irons helps him to his feet, and Irons reports back and says, "We got him. Superman's back." Superman and Irons go after Morgan Edge. Back at the desert fortress, Tall-Ro tells his father that Zod is gone for good. Zeta-Ro says it's time for him to finish it. Tall-Ro takes the Eradicator from the fortress and flies off with it. Superman and Irons are right behind him. Irons arms his solar flare missile and aims it at Tall-Ro. Tall-Ro flies out into space with the Eradicator and Irons' missile is locked onto him. Superman hangs back so the solar flare won't affect him. As Edge gets away from the planet, he uses his heat laser vision to activate the Eradicator, and out in space, Irons fires the missile and it hits Tall-Ro and he falls back to the Earth. Tall-Ro hits the ground hard and Superman lands right beside of him. Tall-Ro comes to but is very weak from the solar flare and says to Superman, "We could have ruled together as brothers. Instead, I will bury you in the ashes of this world." Superman balls up his fist and hits him hard in the face, which knocks him out. Superman returns home to his family. Irons follows to make sure they are all okay. He tells them Morgan Edge Tall-Ro is in a state-of-the-art military prison and that he will never hurt anyone again. He says goodbye to them and flies off. At the Cushing house, Sophie is home from her grandparents. They don't tell her about what happened and what happened to the house. They are just glad she is home and glad the family is all together. Clark and Lois spend the morning together at home just enjoying each other's company, and that is how Superman and Lois, Season 1, Episode 12, Through the Valley of Death, ends. Wow, this was another great episode. Great story, great acting, great effects, great choreographed fight scenes. This episode has drama, emotion, and action. I thought there were some amazing things about this episode. I thought it was very cool and very interesting how the consciousness of General Zod was the Kryptonian presence inside of Superman when Tal and Zeta Rho were trying to turn him. And he actually did turn for a little while, which an evil Superman, now that's downright scary. I mean, think of how much destruction he could cause and how many people would die because of an evil Superman. It reminded me of when Christopher Reeve's Superman turned evil in Superman 3. I mean, they really could have done some dark things with that Superman had they really focused on evil Superman in that film. It was great to see David Ramsey's John Diggle from Arrow and the other CW shows make a guest appearance in Superman and Lois. Diggle was always one of my favorite characters in Arrow and in the Arrowverse. So now we know for sure that the Arrowverse and Superman and Lois are connected in the same universe and on the same Earth, as far as we know for now. So now there are some things that they need to explain still, since we know for sure that all this is connected. I like how in this episode Jordan gets to use his powers, and he uses them in the last episode to protect his family, and in this episode to help locate his dad. So like last time, he used his heat laser vision to try and stop Tal Rho Morgan Edge, and in this episode, as I said, he uses his super hearing to find out where Tal Rho has his dad. Jordan really has grown and matured a lot since the start of the season, and so has Jonathan. Jonathan really stands behind his brother and his mom and dad. He has a good heart, and it has really shown in these past few episodes. Lois has some really powerful and emotional scenes in this episode, especially the scene where she and John Henry Irons talk in private, and she tells him why they can save Superman and why he won't turn. Elizabeth Tulloch gives another Emmy-winning performance. She really brings Lois Lane to life and gives her so much more character in this show than Lois Lane has ever had in either the movies or TV shows. Then there's Tyler Hoechlin, who really does a great job in this episode of being the evil Superman, especially with his use of facial expressions and body language. You really believe he's trying to fight off being evil, and when he is evil, he's scary as hell. Will Parks is great as John Henry Irons, aka Steel. I'm really glad he was able to help save Superman instead of kill him. Plus, it was awesome to see him and Superman work together at the end of this episode to apprehend Morgan Edge, Tal Rho, and that was great. I really think what Kyle and the Cushings are going through and experiencing is really unfair. Like Kyle told Lana and Sarah, all he was trying to do was something good for the town. He didn't know what Morgan Edge was really up to, and it sucks they are being blamed for everything, and that they are being treated so harshly, and that people are vandalizing their home and property, and the fact that Kyle can't even go to work. I mean, all that is just overkill in my opinion. I'm wondering what kind of metal that John Henry Irons' suit and hammer are made out of, since Superman was barely making a dent in the armor, and when he hits Superman with his hammer, that the hammer doesn't shatter or just crumble to pieces when he hits Superman with it. Is it something that maybe Lex Luthor developed, or maybe a metal that is like vibranium or adamantium from the Marvel Universe? I would really like to know what kind of metal it is, because if it can withstand Superman, then it's pretty damn sturdy. Plus, in this episode, it shows John Henry Irons' head inside the helmet during the fight with Superman, and it reminded me a lot of Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So those are all my thoughts for this week's episode. I'm going to give Superman and Lois Season 1, Episode 12, Through the Valley of Death, a well-deserved A+. This is still a great show, and this episode was fantastic. I love the fact that we got to see John Diggle from Arrow, and now I want to see Melissa Benoist's Supergirl make an appearance, and I want to see Grant Gustin's Flash make an appearance as well. I hope that happens, if not in this season, then in Season 2. Okay, that is it for this video. I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. Good night. God bless. I love all of you, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.